Is it true that being selfish is a bad thing? Let's look at the definition of selfish. To be concerned excessively or exclusively with oneself. Seeking or concentrating on one's own advantage, pleasure, well-being without regard for others. How does that sound to you? Let me tell you a story. So when I was a child, I was constantly reminded not to be selfish and to think of others first. I can almost hear my parents and other community members say that putting yourself first is for the most part wrong. Growing up in a Catholic home, the needs of others and to accept everyone for whom they were always came first. I really wanted to be that person, the one that made everyone happy and accepted. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I struggle with this message, and I'll tell you why. We lived in a close-knit community. I had many friends, but there were also those girls, the ones who felt good making fun of me, the way I talk and the way I walked. So I was about 8 years old when I shared this with my parents, and they told me not to pay any attention to them and just be nice, Beatriz. I was so confused. How can I be nice to them when they're not even being nice to me? And my little inner voice would say, you have to be the better person, Beatriz. This was the first time I felt that my feelings didn't matter. I felt sad. So I asked my parents again if they cared about me, my feelings. And they would quickly say, of course we do. But accepting others and everyone for who they are is very important. What I really heard that day was that I didn't matter. And if I chose me, my feelings, and how they affected me, I was being selfish. So I tried mending my relationship with those girls. I chose to accept them for who they were, no matter how mean they were being to me. But that didn't go the way I hoped. They made fun of me, they made fun of how naive I was, and even slapped me around a couple of times. For me, that was very traumatic. It was an experience that affected my innermost sense of safety. My core belief and my reality were now distorted. This experience affected how I felt about my parents, their guidance, and their expectations of me. Unbeknownst to my parents and other community members, they were planting seeds of self-doubt and shame. So depending on your faith, culture, values, and environment, your beliefs will be shaped by those around you. I remember telling myself that putting my needs and my safety first meant that I was wrong. So this little story I was telling myself kept growing and deepening more and more as I grew older. It made me feel different, so much that I isolated myself from others, thinking that I was not good enough. I kept telling myself that I just didn't fit in this world. I started to think that I was not deserving of belonging. For me, that early memory was the beginning of a distorted belief, one that affected my sense of self, my sense of safety. Cognitive behavior therapy says that if we change the way we think, we can change the way we feel. Our thoughts, whether conscious or unconscious, create feelings, and our feelings create behaviors. And our behavior affect how we interact with others. If we learn to focus on our thoughts and how they make us feel, we become more present, more open, and mindful of what drives our behavior. It helps us understand more about ourselves. It helps us ask questions such as, where did that belief come from? How come it's making me feel this way? If we don't stop and ask these questions, these thoughts will automatically trigger old hurts, leaving us feeling trapped in a story that no longer belongs to us. Stories such as, I'm not good enough, I am not wanted, or I am not loved. Leaving us feeling insecure, confused, and uncertain. It leaves us wounded. These unhealthy thoughts and feelings lead us to become impulsive, reactive, and out of control. My distorted beliefs created a negative coping mechanism, one that led me to believe that if I was going to be who I wanted to be, I needed to be rebellious and aggressive. This belief created an extreme version of myself. The I can do it all. I appear fearless, strong, and driven. However, my reality was that I was feeling trapped. In the book, The Body Keeps the Scores, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk explains, trauma is not just an event that takes place in the past, but an imprint left by the experience in our mind and body, but mainly in our bodies. Trauma lives in our body, and any situation can trigger it and intensify the feeling as if it was happening right now. I was 19 years old when I found myself in a toxic relationship where I relived all of those old patterns, leaving me feeling unsafe and afraid again. This made me feel helpless and powerless. I was giving everyone my power, and by doing that, I allowed their perception of me to impact my reality. So one day, feeling extremely vulnerable and unhappy, with the help of a family member, I ended that relationship. Trauma lived in my body, and how I was going to heal was up to me. It was time for me to embrace myself, love myself, and feel safe inside my body. My quest for becoming my best self, and a bit selfish, became my main priority. With the help of therapy, I learned to release my fears through meditation and mindfulness. I took control of my life. Every time I felt triggered, I learned to ask myself, what is it inside of me that is making me feel this way? This provided a space for me to reflect on my thoughts and feelings and take the attention away from others and how they were making me feel. So instead of overreacting, I focus on me and I respond. By responding and not reacting, I take control of my life and my power. I no longer was that wounded little girl who made up a story about not deserving to be loved. I learned to leave the past behind me and heal my inner child so that I can feel safe. It was time for me to rewrite my story and accept me for who I was, selfish or not. I was going to do what made me happy. I chose me, and I surrendered. I accepted me just the way I am, imperfectly perfect. When you read the definition of selfish, it has a negative connotation to it. However, the reality is that when you excessively and exclusively focus on your well-being, everyone benefits. So I'm okay with being selfish. Because when I am true to myself, I am facing my inner child where my experiences have helped me in the way I see the world, but it does not dictate who I am. I am now able to share my uniqueness, my own thoughts, my own ideas, and my own experiences without fear, shame, or guilt. So how do you rewrite your story? Well, it took me a long time to get here. But once you go through the process of learning about where your distorted beliefs come from, taking responsibility for your actions, accepting yourself for who you are, choosing to live in the present, only then you can start rewriting your story. So I want to challenge you to start living your truth, seeing you, loving you, and accepting the real you. Because when you put yourself first, you choose your best self, the authentic you, the real you. Thank you.